Hey, welcome.
Yo.
Welcome. Tampa Fishing Outfitters live fishing report in the studios. We got the full house.
Full house.
We're going to talk a little fishing, answer some questions, see what's going on. We missed last week's show. A little bit of a weather fishing jam / just busy time of the year. So life, kids,
you name it.
grandmas, grandpas, uncles, all that good stuff. But we're here tonight.
Now.
We're here now.
2 weeks worth of data.
2 weeks worth of data collected.
It's been pretty
Out there in
hot.
Tampa
both
Bay.
of the weeks.
It's been hot.
It's been hot.
But yeah, we're here.
I've been out a little bit here. Damn kids. But did we reveal? What's the name of our show? Did we do a reveal, or I'm looking at the page here.
Hasn't changed yet.
Hadn't changed yet.
Oh, so maybe I just broke.
Yeah. Ernie's back.
So I'm here 5 seconds and I done screwed up, huh?
Hey,
You're
Ernie.
good.
Long.
Well, I mean,
It didn't take long.
Making sure I'm fitting in good here.
We've been talking about it for a while. I mean, I guess right in the middle of tarpon season is probably one of the more difficult times to relaunch something, but we're close, and that's all that matters. But we're still here. We got the latest fishing report. Looks like some of our regulars are already in. Good old Eric.
Michael Fields.
Yeah.
I saw him Saturday, and he caught some bait next to Michael.
Scaled sardine.
Yes, sir.
My boy right there. Ernie. I met Ernie for the first time the other day. Good dude.
Yeah, actually, when I was pulling up on the flat, Michael whistled at me and said, "Over here, I got it."
Uh-huh.
And he sounded like you, the voice.
Did he?
And I'm looking, I'm going, well, that's
the famous James Beers?
That's not James's boat. That's not James's.
Ernie tried to call me.
I said, that's not James's boat. Anyway, so I got over there and I power pulled down. He goes, it's mixed, but I'm getting it. And hey, Michael, I got to get some of your chum, man, because I started chumming, and it was just a plethora of pinfish.
Yeah.
And
Michael's got
good
chum.
So I eased on forward.
Yum, yum, chum.
I eased forward about 100 yards.
Uh-huh.
And got him going there. I turned around and he was booking out. But yeah, I wasn't trying to dish you, Michael. I was just I wasn't happy with the pinfish over by my boat. My boat wasn't looking good.
I went on the flats today, Rick, and you're mentioning pinfish. I'm pretty sure I saw a lot of white bait, but I wasn't paying too much attention. Then I started looking closer. I was like, man, there's a lot of pinfish. I think we're to that. I haven't got bait on the flats lately. Been using a lot of threads and getting some mixed greenbacks, which is really thinning out. But it looks like there's a lot of pinfish on the flats.
Well, I was one and done today on the flats with whitebait.
Well, that's a good thing.
Wow.
Had some pinfish, not many.
Yeah.
I'm
talking one and done.
The little pinfish.
I threw that net and popped it and give it a couple,
Lit up.
and the whole circle just turned white. And I said,
Man.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
That makes for a good morning.
That's some kind of code thing they started at the kids camp.
oh,
here.
it was good. It was good.
Jack mackerel's the secret.
Yeah,
for
I used to
pinfish.
use Jack mackerel.
Yeah, pinfish Jack mackerel get you going.
I remember I used to take
Cozy
whole wheat
Kitten,
bread,
Jack
some anise
mackerel.
oil.
What about Jack Mac and cornmeal? That was my.
Yeah.
I never used
Yeah.
the cornmeal. Then I discovered Purina 45. So
It's like,
this is way
this
easier.
is so much better.
So much
I'd be
better.
trying
So
to go to
much
the
easier.
pharmaceutical
Hang on, what
place
about,
to get.
everyone's been through it. I mean, when you had to get Jack Mac and you go hit one store and they don't have, you're like in that tuna aisle and you're like, no, not pink salmon.
Yeah.
No, not tuna.
Dude, Cozy
Jack
Kitten.
Mac.
I was just going to
Cozy
say
Kitten.
Cozy Kitten.
I used to
was-
drive to Bradenton down
Yes.
on Cortez
Yes.
and buy it by the case.
Yes.
I go down and get like 3 24-can cases of Cozy Kitten.
Yeah.
And then came Purina.
That's what happens when, like, there was a day, and I forget when it was. It wasn't too long ago, and I ran out of chum, right? And I was like, oh,
What
I'm
do I
out
do?
I'm out of chum. What do I do? I can't fish tomorrow. You
Yeah.
know, and I was like, wait a minute. I'm just going to go to Winn-Dixie. And
Yeah.
and actually, I take it back. I went to Winn-Dixie, and I went into Winn-Dixie, and I got some stuff for dinner. And then I was like, I'm not paying retail. So I went across the gullies
There you go.
at the Gully's
Yeah,
Food
yeah,
Mart in Ruskin, and I got some cat food.
Yep.
I got cat food and crackers. That was all I could find, make it happen,
Oh,
and it worked out great.
Shake and bake.
Yeah, dude, the old shake and
But
bake.
you know what was always funny is getting like, buying 10, 15 cans of Jack Mac and going up to the counter, and
people are like, do
Wait,
you
I mean,
eat this stuff?
the only person buying that Jack Mac has to be somebody using it for fish chum.
I just didn't like buying the Cozy Kitten because they thought I was a cat owner.
Cat, oh, they thought you were a cat owner. Yeah, can't be confused with one of those.
He looks like a cat owner.
I am not a
He
cat
looks like
owner.
one of them
guy.
big shaggy
Yeah.
cats, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
That's
oh,
going-
fuzzy feet.
Way back.
Well, we got all four
Fuzzy.
of us here,
Fuzzy's
guys,
been the
and I
word
know,
this week.
With everybody's been busy lately. This is like the peak season, so we've got all our fishing reports, and it seems like we've all been kind of doing something different than each other for the most part. So why don't we start down there and get a recap of maybe
Oh,
just this last week or
gosh.
so? I know you got the kids camp
You're
going.
I've
right,
had-
Kathy.
I've had kids camp.
Dude, they're wreaking
you up.
havoc in
They
the
got
yard
my
over
boat.
there. Well, yeah, I had my boat on a trailer for a week, so I was bringing it
Go
home.
short and release them in video.
Yeah.
You
They
get
were
in a lot of
like,
trouble
they
for
were
that.
like, dude, Trav's home. You know, they would pile in at night and just crush my boat, man,
Yeah.
no matter what.
They
But
love
anyway.
that. They know how to twist that top off and everything. But I've had kids camp all of last week, and it is. If you don't know about kids camp, just imagine taking 4 kids on the boat that are excited with no parental guidance, and you're just begging for a bite. And actually, last week the bite was not bad, but it wasn't a. It's just different kind of fishing, because in that camp it's okay to go sit like at the middle grounds and just catch trout and mackerel. We caught trout, we caught mackerel, we caught one cobia, a lot of sharks, and something about if you're 9 to 14 years old, sharks are like the best
the best thing in the world.
So, but only caught a couple snook last week. 0 reds, just totally different kind of fishing, and it's kind of a good change. But I don't really have nothing, because I've had kids camp, and what I'm going to say we've been doing and what's been working is not going to interest anybody that's watching.
Well, it might.
Not true, though.
Hey,
Not
let's give it a
true.
run.
Not
Right.
true. Not true.
I
Okay.
get kids on my boat all the time. I have kids.
I mean,
Well, but I don't think there's a lot of kids watching, and most people watching, I think of everybody watching is probably wanting to go
Rick,
catch.
it's okay to catch catfish.
Okay. Okay.
I will say
I
this,
caught
though.
some catfish.
Yeah, he caught some catfish.
The thing about it is, though, with what you're talking about, is what it boils down to is you got to chase a bite. I don't care if it's jacks, ladyfish, mackerel, sharks, something. You got to keep something going
Right.
to keep the kids entertained.
Oh, for sure.
To keep them into that fishing. And so
I think I want to first, man. I don't need to get tips or paid. I want to go on Travis's boat for one of these trips and just sit in the back.
I'll
and
be
watch.
the scale on the tower.
Yeah.
Because
Oh god.
hey, it was like, hey, I hope some of my kids are watching, because they were gonna follow the show. By the time they got out of Captain Travis boot camp, they were ready to go, man.
These kids
That's
thought
what
they
it
were going to
was.
summer camp. It was really boot
No,
camp. They
now-
got,
Oh man,
I don't mean to paint a bad picture on the camp,
No.
because the camp is great and
No.
it's wonderful for the kids and it's a good thing. What I'm trying to get across is it's not one of our normal fishing trips.
it's not a normal charter.
Yeah.
It's
Definitely not one of our normal fishing trips. And, honestly, we probably caught a whole lot more fish doing what we did, but just it was more about numbers than it was about quality.
Sure.
So, but no, I love it. I like it. and it depends. It depends on your kids, because last week I had kind of a divided
this
boat.
is good.
This week I got a great boat. I got 4 kids that
get along.
Well,
get along. They're good. Last week I had 2 kids that hated one another, and they bickered and fought the whole time, and they knew each other before the camp, so it just kind of rolled into the camp. But we made it work. But yeah, it's different. So all I'm trying to say is different. No, it's a good experience for the
kids. And
kids.
there's bad kids. I mean, some of them are, they just
Well,
haven't been
I didn't
disciplined
have-
by their parents. So when you get that on the boat, that's a train wreck.
I'm not even saying my kids were bad. The 2 that I had trouble with, they weren't bad kids. They just
Wasn't good.
they were 10 and the
They're
other
kids.
2 were
They're
13.
10-year-old kids,
They were-
keeping their
that's right.
attention for that long.
They were 10-year-old kids.
It wouldn't matter if it was fishing, basketball, video. I mean, just keeping a group of kids' attention going for that amount of time. Factor in fish that you need to cooperate, hot sun, right?
Right.
Every other
Right.
factor. It's not an easy job, but yeah, that's cool, man. I know it could be tough.
But yeah, I was king of the 10-inch trout, baby.
Hey,
And
Fish-
catfish.
Don't
Fish
tell
coming over
everybody
the
that,
rail.
Rick. Don't tell everybody that.
Hey, it's all right. Don't.
I had them dialed in.
There was actually some
Catfish.
nice trout out there. We caught some nice
Yeah,
trout.
we
We had a
there
couple-
was some good trout caught, but
Yeah.
it was mostly not.
Right.
yeah.
Not
we
so
we got
much.
a couple today that were, I don't know, maybe 19, 20 inches, but they're few and far between.
Sure.
So anyway,
Anyway.
Travis, you give us a report.
Oh, you going? You sliding? We're going
Yeah,
this way.
we
You
done-
know
somebody's staring at you.
we done
Hey,
turned it.
yeah,
Are you
yeah.
getting nervous there? Like
I didn't know if you were done.
I'm done.
You know?
I'm done.
Was that it?
That's it. It's all,
I thought there was
no. That's it.
nothing else there.
Nope.
your turn.
My turn. So, well, yeah.
Don't choke under pressure now.
I did the same thing you did last week,
Mm-hmm.
and I ran, I think, 3 afternoons, doubles after the kids' camp. I fished again, and so it was a long week, busy week. But I had the same experience as Rick. It's a different experience if you haven't had 4 kids on the boat without a parent, without their parent.
Yeah.
You have to sort of become like the camp counselor.
Sure.
And for me, Rick, you've done the camps and stuff before. And so for me, when I went into it, I kind of dove into it like these are my 4 clients. But in reality, you can't let them have that sort of edge on you. So I kind of put it into like more of a boot camp. I wanted
the
to
kids
keep,
put you in check on
I
day
wanted
one.
to
Huh?
keep,
You had to regroup.
I wanted to keep
They
it was like
They had
like,
Travis. They're
We were-
working them, son.
Hey,
They're like,
Captain,
oh, we
I
got
need bait.
fresh
Captain, I
meat.
need a thing. Captain,
We
I
got
need a hook.
fresh
Captain,
meat.
I need this. I was like, Then I'm like, wait a minute.
and that's
You got
just
any
Wait a
snacks?
it.
minute.
You got any snacks?
Yeah.
You're sitting there.
Time out.
You're sitting there
Dude, they
tying
were
a new
licking
hook
their chops.
on.
They seen Travis.
You're tying a new hook on. There's a fish at the side of the boat, and you're trying to get this done
And
as
he's going,
fast
"I need
as you
bait."
can. And that's what I was gonna say. And there's a hook flying like this in front of you. A kid going, "Hey, I need bait. I need a bait. I need a bait."
Pipe down,
Get in
son.
line.
Yeah,
You go time out. So it took about 2 days, and
Captain Travis had instinct fishing jail.
Oh, bro, I had jail. We had jail on the boat. We had to have rods secured in their rod holders before we left to go to the next fishing spot. It was they couldn't come
Security
behind.
checklist.
They couldn't come
Hey.
behind the console with their rod. They had to stay up front, so they didn't break a rod in the tower. So there was rules, but they caught fish.
There you go.
So and I hope that the 4 guys that I had became better fishermen because of it. If not, they had a good time. I know they did. So
Yeah.
we had a big snook, caught some redfish, caught some sharks, caught a cobia. You name it, we caught it. So it was a good time, and then we did some tarpon fishing, caught some tarpon, fished the hill tides, just all around. This time of year is opportunistic fishing, in my opinion. You really don't have those days where you go from the first spot to the last spot, whether it's a 4-hour trip or an 8-hour trip, where you crush it all in between that trip. It's a very, very opportunistic fishing type scenario where you're going to play the tide, or you're going to play the heat, or you're going to play the the overcast, or this or that, and do different things. The wind got us last week. So for me, honestly, I had told the kids I wanted to run across one day. I was gonna take them back where I normally fish on a daily basis, and they were really excited to go do that. But we just never had the opportunity with the weather to be able to do that.
That was a tough wind week.
All that being said, it's that time of year where you really just have to kind of take what you got and roll with it. Whether it's water temperature, wind, whatever. So the bay fishing has been the primary stuff, and then the backcountry, inshore fish has been secondary for me.
Good deal. That's kind of what I've been telling when I'm getting calls this time of year, and all the different hey Captain, what do we catch, and hey, what are we going to go do? And I was like, well, we're going to do we're going to go and check a bunch of different things. We're going to go out there and do this. We're going to go see how that goes, and if that doesn't go, this is what we're going to do. And try and just give them a list of several different things we're going to go after or try, and say whatever happens, whatever will cooperate, we'll go after.
Right.
But it's hard to say, even in a 4-hour trip, this is what we're going to go do for 4 hours with any certain.
Right.
I found that to be especially true. We got really hot this past week. I mean, like in the second half of the week, it was very warm, and
the water temperature is the key to that. It's
Water
been hot,
was
but the
so
water
hot.
temperature's up. Now we
you
finally
can
got
feel
water,
it in
hot
your
water.
live well too. Like, I mean, it's just you can
Cooking,
feel it in your bait. It's cooking the bait. But yeah, I didn't catch I was telling a client, I think it was Thursday or Friday last week, and I had all this live bait just because I was fortunate enough to get it, but I had buckets of dead bait, and it was like 4 hours into the trip, and he's like, "Are we going to use the live bait?" And I was like, "Probably not. I don't even know why I'm catching it anymore. I mean, I haven't caught a fish on live bait in over a week.
Yeah.
Whether it's a snapper, a mackerel, a tarpon, a shark, a snook, a red." I hadn't caught any of those species. I haven't caught any of them on live bait in a while.
I don't even know why I'm getting live bait.
Oh,
We had crabs. We had crabs.
It's like part of it. It's like
No, it is.
but
Yeah, you got to have
you
some.
don't even use it. You don't even use it.
Same exact. It's so funny you say that because that happened to me today. We left
sure
this
I did
morning.
this.
I had cut bait and crabs. We fished crabs first thing in the morning. Fished some cut bait, and then on our way to our second spot, I said, "Guys, let me hit a tower as everybody's probably off of them. Let me see if I can get some more bait." I threw the net, and I smoked the white bait. I'm talking like wrecked it. And he goes, "Where you want me to put it, man? I don't know if it'll fit all in the live well." I said, "No, it'll fit all in that cooler, though." And he goes, "What?" And I go, "Yeah, we're going to put it all in the cooler." He goes, "You're not going to keep any alive?" I said, "No, we're not going to keep any alive." So he's like, "Oh, well, we got to have live bait, man. We're going tarpon fishing." I was like, "Yeah, bro." I was like, "I'll swing back around and get some live bait." So I swung back around, threw the net, dumped half of it out, and put like half of it in the live well. Dumped every piece of it at my marina when I got back. Never put a live bait on today at all. In 8 hours of fishing, never put a live bait on. So
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I haven't used it.
Got grouper, tarpon,
Yeah.
snapper, some sharks.
You know what? I did catch a couple of grouper on a live bait last week.
Did you?
Let me say that. I had a couple bigger baits floating around in there, sorry. And when I was snapper fishing, there was just sometimes they were getting taken to the woodshed. So put on a tarpon rod, but that was the only time I used live bait. And that was really just to get it down there and get it through all the snapper, because the grouper were actually hitting the dead baits that were dropping down, the chum pieces. Because, and you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, like when it came to that bay fishing, like how you'd been seeing that bloom of the small fry bait. Well, I've been snapper fishing for a few weeks and we haven't had that. So I'm getting like tarpon baits or whatever, the bridge. Yeah.
I was there today. It's every bumper's got fry bait around it. Every bumper.
That's what I need.
So,
but I haven't had it, so I'm cutting up the big stuff into the small pieces and dropping that down as chum, dropping it down as bait, and snapper been loving it.
I've seen some fry bait on the flats today mixed in, which makes sense for July. Typically, there's still big bait on the flats, but there's small mixed in with the big. I didn't throw on it. I just saw it going to some spots, but been kind of the same thing for me. Doing a lot of bait fishing. Snook fishing has been really tough the last week and a half. We've had tough tides. It's unusual tough. Usually summertime, it's not uncommon to go catch 20 snook pretty easy, 30 snook. For whatever reason, I think for me, I think it's a mixture of stuff. Some of the areas are getting pounded worse than I've ever seen. It's hot. I marked 95.2 coming out of the marina the other day.
It's been
95 degrees.
Real hot.
So we did some tarpon fishing, did pretty well. Went 1 for 3 yesterday on tarpon. Hooked one out on the beach, fishing the hilltide on Friday, which that was a cluster. There's a lot of boats out there.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad though. It actually went really well as far as
the pass we were drifting is a tough pass because it's smaller.
It is, but I'm just saying like the crowd. It went well.
Well, the fish we hooked, I don't even know how we hooked the fish. The guy next to me was some guide out of Anna Maria, I'm pretty sure, down there, Bradenton. And he was a trip, man. He was cussing out the customers because they lost fish and broke rods. We hooked our fish, and I'm like, dude, just trim your motor up. His boat comes out of the water in the back, and all I see is straight barnacles. Like, it stays in the water. And our fish is on the other side underneath this boat jumped. I don't know how we landed this fish, so I came up to him. And he's like, jump on my boat. There's like 3 footers. I'm like, no, I'm not pulling up next to your boat. We're going to wreck.
Yeah.
So I came up and kind of T-boned right at him, and I backed it real hard around, and the line just popped out, and we caught the fish. No clue how I was like, this is like, go play your lotto
wicked
ticket.
tuna. Wicked tarpon.
Nice.
So he ended up losing his fish. And this guy was crazy. But anyhow, we ended up catching it, and but the drift was kind of tough. I had to leave my motor running. But thankfully I had some good anglers on the boat. It's hard.
I put 10 hours on my boat last week on one day of tarpon fishing.
Yeah, I kind of. It's tough. Tarpon fishing is tough. But anyhow, we did well with tarpon this past few days. I did hear fish were not out on the beach, south at least, as of yesterday afternoon, evening, nothing. So I think the main span of migration fish are probably moving north. I think you'll have some pop in on this next moon around the passes out there, and then of course the bay's been pretty good.
And to get to somebody's question earlier about honeymoon, I would imagine based on what we're seeing, you're probably going to be loaded. I know there's been fish there already, but I'm sorry, we missed somebody's question about honeymoon tarpon.
Yeah, I would say it's loaded.
They've already been there, but based on what we've probably seen, I'd say since this last full moon, it's probably a safe bet to say how many there were, there's more now.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind for whoever asked that. Sorry.
Yeah. Let people know too. I left this morning. It was 87. When I got back, it's 94. So key to that is early start or fish real late. Problem with fishing real late is you get the afternoon sea breeze. You get the thunderstorms have been not around really, which
not
is
too bad.
Sea breeze has been there, but storms haven't really blowed in. We got a few, some rain, but not a bad one yet.
We got some been catching some Goliath groupers too. We lost a few and got some nice ones, which has been
what Armando said right there though. Last week those hill tides were
good.
They were good.
Yeah.
I didn't get to fish them, but they were good.
They were good on the tarpon.
Well, those are there's 2 tides you look for if you're a daggum, tarpon guy for sure. Is you look for the full moon in June and the full moon in July.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the tides. And it was funny because we had the folks I fished on Friday evening on the hilltide have tarpon fished with me for years, and we've caught quite a few fish over the years in the bay, the bridge, and I've just never really taken them out to the passes or the beaches. We just never really fished out there for several reasons, but they normally fish with me late. So they happened to be in town. I said, you know what, guys? I said, it's a hilltide. I said, let's run out and do that style of tarpon fishing. They were all for it. So I had 2 guys on the boat, and it's – Jason, you and I have talked about it over the years. It's more of an experience thing.
I love it out there.
Even if you're not catching fish, you're seeing people hook fish. Fish are flying. Obviously it'd be nice if you were just out there by yourself and you could drift through and have it all to yourself, but that's just not the case. But everybody's got sort of a fair shot out there. It's one of them things where if somebody's sitting in the good spot, well, chances are 20 minutes later you could probably be in that spot with the drift. You just watch and keep your eyes peeled and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
but
bay fishing to like Egmont, it's like comparing Little Harbor Beach to St. Pete Beach. They're both beaches, but one looks a lot better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like it's the same deal. It's just not like when you go out to Egmont and you're fishing them hill tides. I'll be honest with you, like this year I didn't as much. In the year before, but the year before that, my last 3 weeks on tarpon season, I was starting at like 2 fishing. I was fishing them afternoons with just crab and drifting, and it was great. You know, I started 2, get home at, you know, I'd fish till dark, and I was had my boat at O'Neill's, so it's a lot easier running a little harbor at night. It's a little different, but I'd get home at 10, I'd sleep in the next day, and we were catching, you know, anywhere from 1 to 5 fish hookups and getting a couple a night. But there's just something about being out there on that afternoon, as long as it's raining there, and that I always like that sunset.
That last hour.
Oh yeah. But running in on the sunset, man, in the evening is great.
It's fun until you hook a fish at 8:30 and it's a 20-mile-an-hour west wind and the tides are rolling out and he decides to go offshore.
Yeah.
Let's get to this question Angela had about fry bait. So who wants to take first crack? What's fry bait?
Small bait.
What we always refer to.
Hatchling.
It's a hatch.
Small bait.
So it's just going to be the smallest bait you're going to see all year.
Yeah, and it's sort of a general term. It doesn't mean it's thread fins. It doesn't mean it's greenbacks. It could be glass minnows. Right. It's just a general term for small hatchling baits that get in giant schools. Normally birds, you know, jacks, mackerel, ladyfish. It's you know, that type of situation. It's really just a feeding frenzy. What it boils down to is because they're not eating. They have nothing they're going after. They're nothing but food source at that point.
When you're bait, when you are born as a greenback, you might as well just flop up on the shore. You're doomed. It's like you got birds going after you, people. You know, then after, like I just think about the baits. You're docking at my house.
You
like
got no shot.
You made it through the whole day, and you're in the live well. Guess what? They're throwing you to the tigers when you get back to the dock. There is zero chance you're
out.
living.
You're out.
I mean, I'm always like, I don't know why I think about that, but I mean, them catfish at my house, man, they come out of the water like to eat. It's crazy.
Angelo, to answer your question, yes. To me, that means that snapper fishing is really about to fire off.
Yes.
Yep.
And every year it happens, and we sort of wait. And I have a customer that I was talking to James about it. He's been on me for like a month. When's the snapper here? When's the snapper here? I said, I'll let you know. Now, granted, we've been catching snapper, but to really get those snapper lifted up off the bottom and they're in big, giant schools, it generally coincides with the fry bait hatch. Just because every year I've got a cooler full of fry bait, and I'm going snapper fishing. And it hadn't been here.
I haven't caught hardly any snapper. The ones I have caught have been
here
big,
now.
But I did see some when I was tarpon fishing, but I have, you know, like we'll get out there and we got the bigger threads and we're cut bait, and all of a sudden you see the ball of snapper come, even though they're using the bigger stuff. I know you said you whacked the snapper, but man, I tried quite a bit of stuff, and I'm like, man, where are these things at? Like,
there's some fish there, like on the outside and some deeper edges, but I haven't seen. Now we'll say this, and I think I was talking to Rick about it. That I found the fry bait up by us, right, on a particular marker. And as soon as I found the fry bait, there were snappers right underneath them.
Yeah.
Same marker. I mean, you know, the fry bait was there, and I'm looking down, and I thought it was a small cobia because there was like 4 or 5 snappers, and they were down on the markers, and they were just kind of like a shadow. And I got to looking at it, I go, oh, that's all snapper. And I looked down, and there had to have been 20, 30 snappers just sitting underneath that fry bait. So
one thing about the snapper fishing I've been doing is I'm going further out to cleaner, deeper water. Still in the bay, but you know, just a little closer to the mouth of it, where it's that lighter tint, probably than the upper bay area. And these fish are, unlike years previous, even when it's early, they're coming up like gulfs. They're looking like Gulf snapper, like fish I'd pull off 20 miles out in terms of their color, everything about them. Not that deep, dark reddish brown that I'm used to seeing inside the bay. So that's been kind of neat.
You've been catching some nice ones too.
Yeah, we've been getting pretty good snapper. And the difference is in what happened last week that was different than the previous weeks. The previous weeks I could chum them and I could get them going, but I couldn't get that big lift out of them. You know, so if we're in 40 feet, I'm not getting them 20 feet below the boat. I'm getting them down on the bottom. Last week, I mean, we lit them up. I mean, the bait couldn't even get halfway down. So that was one thing I noticed. And you said I didn't see any fry bait. I wasn't even looking for it. But it's interesting that happened last week.
I honestly think that lifts those fish to come up off the surface. Because
I was marking them, and with this new machine I'm using, I really enjoy using it for that style of fishing. So I was marking them, and they were coming up 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 feet. But last week, Thursday and Friday, I mean they were almost bumping in the bottom of the boat to get the
Thursday, Friday, you were right on the full moon too.
Yeah,
so
great.
Funny as you said that is that I was doing some tarpon fishing. It was right around that full moon. Actually, I think it was Friday, and I seen snapper. I actually had some thread fins dangling on my rod dead, and I look over, and the snapper, I was idling around. We had on the rod holder, and the snapper were coming up on the thread fin that was dangling in the water. Yeah, and I just wasn't snapper fishing.
Which channel? Armando, rock piles off the channel. Which channel? I cannot say. All right. I'm sure somebody could deduce, which channel.
Yeah. So it like Travis said, I think the snapper fishing's right around the corner to really shoot off. I'm looking forward to it because and some of the problem with me is all the bait I've had has been huge, which I'm okay with, but I don't know. I think that smaller fry stuff's better.
Yeah.
So, but tides like we had this morning and yesterday morning and the day before, or what I like the snapper fishing on slow tides where I'm trying to snook fish today, and it's just look at the tide chart and you're like, please start moving a little bit. It was just
the tides.
brutal.
I tell you, and I told Rick this too. And part of this was probably just because I was fishing a lot north. I was fishing north every day. But the tides were off. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but last week the tides were
off,
like
way off,
incredibly
I noticed
off.
that too, like
2
a
hours,
couple
3
hours.
Yeah, I mean,
Saturday it was like that.
I told Rick,
terrible.
I said,
I thought it was me.
I come across the bay,
It
and
was terrible Saturday.
I was planning my day,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
yeah,
dude, I had to go back and I looked at my machine. I'm like, am I on the right year?
I
Is
had
it the
the
right
same problem.
month?
That's funny
what
you
is
would say
going
that.
on?
I
mean, it was off by a
The earth was
significant
slow on
amount.
tilting.
I was waiting for some incoming water, and it never
was like,
happened.
yeah,
I
go
fished
on.
last Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all tarpon, and that was like the real part of that flush tide where it was going significantly. I'm like, oh yeah, 2 o'clock. Giving a couple hours for the crab to start rolling. Oh yeah, 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be rolling at about 4 o'clock.
That's the worst.
Oh,
when you
dude,
don't,
5
when you're-
o'clock, dude.
That's the money hour.
These
They
nails are
already
gonna be
flying
rolling.
by us.
I did.
And then they just started flushing. It's like
Pouring.
you're trying to get these crabs. The tarpon bite's going off. I mean, it's like
And you got
gotta
like
get everything
you got like
done
2
in
hours
90
to
minutes.
fish.
Yeah, you got 2 hours of fish. So
It's
yeah.
funny. That's what happened to us on the hilltide, right? So my guys are scooping crabs, right? And I'm like, I'm in the tower, and that's what's nice about tarpon fishing out there. You get a couple guys, you can stay in the tower,
It's about clean boat. You just get crabs and
run the deal, right? So they're getting crabs, and I kind of I'm like, man, we like all of our crabs.
Tiny.
I'm like, bro, no, man, like we need crabs, And so they started flowing. We got like 3 crabs, 3 good ones. I'm like, all right, man, let's go do a drift,
hit it
So,
on your-
so we do a drift, and then we
all
fly
the
back
crabs
out.
gone. Yeah.
We fly back out, and I'm like, we need 3 more crabs,
Yeah,
man.
that's
It's like
how
we're
we
looking for
work.
3 crabs,
Yeah.
get 3 crabs,
Because
go
it
back
happens
in.
so late. Some
And,
people that are out there, they have the ability to have the crabs on hand.
Yeah.
I'm going out there with like threadies and needing to get crabs, and I've got these people. I'm like, we finish the drift. All right, everybody, put your rod down, grab a net,
Yeah.
and then idle back and start a new drift. But one thing I did notice is, this was something I wanted to make sure we shared is the last week of that hilltide and that flush, I was noticing a pattern of early on, and the crabs are really flowing. A lot of good crabs you're seeing. I was fishing the bigger crabs. I was fishing the good-sized crabs, the one you'd want to fish with. And then that bite, like within an hour, tend to slow down. A lot of people stopped hooking up. Like every drift we were doing, someone within the few boats around me was hooking up, whether it was me or them, and it was a really good bite. And then it changed, and then nobody was hooking up for a while. And through the guys that I know out there that were on the phone with one another, we all started putting on tiny, tiny crabs, really tiny, and that was the ticket. But I just know that changing the crab. So if you see that happen, you see that bite all of a sudden slow down, and you're trying to milk it for another hour or two, try to switch up another bait. I also saw those fish bombing schools of thread fins. I mean, meleeing them. And of course, everybody out there has crabs. So have a sabiki rod tied up, but don't be afraid after you see that initial like really good hour and a half bite go off. Try to put on something different, whether it's a small crab, big crab, something different than what you were using, because that let us squeeze out a few more fish. Whereas a lot of boats I know we're not getting that. So
they're just tough to fish. That's the. I mean, that's the hard part about the crabs, the small crabs rather, and particularly
You
the
get a
past
hook through 'em.
crabs. Particularly the past crabs. Like
That's a good
last
point, Angelo.
night. Last night I went out and I got about 20 crabs.
Mhm.
Good crabs
Yeah.
that I'm gonna keep in my pen and feed them. I used 4 or 5 today. But see, for me, the crab bite is like you fish them in a certain time, and then you put the crabs away. You know, they go back and they don't get touched anymore. We're gonna cut bait or whatever. So
Yep.
all of our fish today actually came on cut bait, and we had 2 good runs on crabs, and then we had a couple of them just we don't know what happened, but anyhow, yeah. So those bigger crabs to me, and I like the baby blues. That's what I mean when I went and caught crabs.
Except for when they shed.
The downside to us is that, you know, or the handicap for us, and I think why, you know, because a lot of clients will call and ask about tarpon fishing and where I'm going to tarpon fish and when and all these different things. And the norm is the beach and the passes and the migration and the crabs and all that stuff. We're handicapped by being able to go to the pass every night and get crabs, or go to the beach and
not
go
possible.
look, whatever. I mean, it's 18 miles away from where I'm at, period, or like probably closer to 20 miles, right, to get to the pass. And so I spend my time in the bay and figuring out how our tarpon work inside the bay. And I'm telling you right now, the beach fishermen roll up into the bay and start catching tarpon. You're going to have a tough time because it's just a different aspect of tarpon fishing. The fish are used to doing different things.
Same species, but they're totally different.
They're
fish.
totally different fish, and so
the fish out on the Gulf, I think, they're like greyhounds. Like they're constantly rolling. Like you can see them a mile away. You come in the bay, if you don't know what you're looking for, they're like slow, big old fat, lazy things.
I need to see like 1 or 2 fish roll.
You want them on
and
the
I'm
bottom.
good. I'm good.
You just see a sign.
I just want to see one roll.
Let me get a good
or mark
bubble.
one on the machine.
Let me just get a good bubble.
Dude, that was so funny. Was that you? Was that me and you on the boat?
Yeah.
It was like, that's got to be a tarpon, man. Look at the bubbles. Look at the bubbles. You know,
Right.
they were.
And we hooked one right
Yeah.
now.
Probably a sea turtle.
Yeah.
I look for that a lot, man. Especially when you're on
That
the
happened
chum,
yesterday.
and
We had a
especially
couple
when you
bubbles.
have a slow tide. It's like a slower tide,
Yep.
and your bait's getting down under the boat. You know, our fish today, our second fish today, ate. I'm talking like off my power pole, dude. Like right under the boat. Like
Really?
And it was so funny because I was gonna tell the guy, hey man, cast that out a little bit, man. Like the chum is getting out there, and I was using some bigger baits. I play the end of the rainbow game sometimes, where it's like you're chumming, right? And most of the times you're gonna drift a piece of cut bait, right?
Yeah.
It's the same as the chum, but a lot of times what I'll do is I'll chum, and I'll take like a ladyfish or a mullet and put it way out in the direction that my chum slick is, kind of like at the end of the rainbow. So wherever that chum is going to, and a lot of times I'll pick up a big fish doing that by leaving a bigger bait out on the bottom at the end of the chum slick or near the chum slick.
Dead bait.
Dead bait, yeah. And so that was the idea with this bait, what the guy had. And he just drops it straight down out the back of the boat, you know. And I'm thinking, man, the chum is like out there, you know. I've been looking at the machine, ain't nothing come up under the machine. Sure enough, man, boom, guy sticks a tarpon right underneath the boat.
Go for
so
Hey, Kip.
anyway, that was just kind of a food for thought.
Yeah, it's what we reading here?
We need to update the sign behind us with our name.
Yes.
We do.
Work in progress.
Yeah.
So
We're definitely working on the Angelo, so a bunch of new stuff coming up.
Yeah, we gotta.
But at the end of every show, we try to recap, man, just in case that's something you want to do. You'll get everybody's name, phone number, website.
Or you can just look us up. I mean, you're on Facebook.
Needs a name.
Right there.
Oh, there you go. That's true. That's right there.
Wow.
So, but
3 brainiacs or 4 brainiacs
Yeah.
here working together.
hey, what can I say? We got the answers.
But well, what's on the horizon the rest of this week? And
For me, man, I've got to go. I actually got 3 days off this week, and I got to get my boat over to Loadmaster, go to Alify, get the oil change, just getting caught up.
there you go.
I was.
Y'all right over there, Rick? What you doing?
Rick,
You
just
you
listening.
Rick is
Whittling.
fixing
chopping
that
wood.
table over there?
Just making things smooth.
Get them splinters out of there.
You with us?
I'm
You with us? Are you
I'm
on
just
the show?
listening. It's
We know
good.
Rick's got kids.
Rick's a
camping again
fan.
this week.
Dude,
Rick's being a
I'm
fan
like, I'm out of it.
He's in kids camp.
I'm in
Rick's in kids. Rick's
I'm
in
at-
kids
Kid
camp.
talk is
I'm
over.
in Yaeckel jail.
Rick said, "Is it dinner time yet?"
Oh god.
Jail was the best thing
Man, I'm
created
just
for
thinking
kids
about
camp.
tomorrow.
Well, here there was what was the other question we had here? Oh,
With the
something about
win.
machine. So,
Oh, yeah.
market for a machine. So why don't we tell what machines we're running, what we like about it, what we hate about it?
I'm been using Simrad, which is Navico, which is Lowrance for years. I love them. I think they have one of the better machines out there. There's a lot of good stuff out there now, though. My recommendation, I'm partial because I'm on their program, so I'm not going to lie. I do like Simrad over the Lowrance. However, I think I'm going to order that HD Live Lowrance unit they have now. It's pretty cool looking for my next boat. I do like that. What do they call that thing you got?
Live scope.
Live scope. I do the live scope. I don't know if the HD, the Lowrance Live does that.
Well, they're
it's
similar.
Supposed to be
The same.
a
Somebody put a
comparison,
really good
but
video out, and we might want, it's like there are two similar systems where they want to give you live imaging versus
Yeah.
your traditional sonar or high def or structure scan, whatever it is. They want to give you more live. Like, think about what you'd see in a when you look at babies, ultrasound.
Yeah.
An image like that where it's live. Like, if something moves, you see it move. If a fish turns, you see it turn. If it eats your bait, you see it eat your bait. It's really cool technology. I watched a video last night because if and when I get a new boat, I'm torn between what I have now that I love, which is that Garmin with the live scope, and what I've always enjoyed previously, and that was Navico. And I don't have a sponsorship with either one, but I've just always liked the way the Lowrance and Simrad run.
The operating system
The operating
is very
system's
easy.
great.
My knock and on Garmin, and I haven't used yours,
Mhm.
and I have used Jason Thompson's boat. And I'm sure some of it's just me not knowing how to use it, but I know that I could go to Simrad and figure out how to find the tides. I couldn't figure out how to find the tides, and I think that from what I've seen, the charting on Garmin is not even close. From
Not
what
even.
not even like in the
Until
ballpark.
last month.
Well, they did buy Navionics, so and the other thing that I didn't like about the unit when I used his, and I haven't used yours, the screen itself. You know what it reminded me of? You look at a Simrad, it looks like a phone. The Garmin screen to me looked like a phone with a screensaver over it, like it just
Right.
wasn't real clear.
Yep.
But the stuff that you had, you posted some video. I thought, damn, that's pretty cool. So it just depends. I know that Humminbird has come out with some pretty cool stuff now. Their
Yeah,
units
man.
are pretty nice.
Helix or
The Helix,
Yeah.
the Helix stuff.
How about the NEMA 3000?
Huh?
the NEMA 3000.
That's that
2000.
new. They got that
2000.
out.
That's a
2000.
network too.
Rick's on 3000, y'all.
Rick's
He's
still
in
trying
kids
to figure out
camp.
the name of 2000.
They can do. It's like Zootopia. You can be whatever you want to be this week, Rick.
I will say this: I had the Simrad with the 3D, and I didn't really use it. I didn't
Hard to
buy
use.
it again. Some guys love it, but whatever videos that are on YouTube, I really couldn't get that to actually happen in real life. It was kind of different to use, and I had it for 7 months with the 16-inch screen with my Canyon Bay, and I don't know. I was like, well, I think I'll just get the regular structure scan it. So I don't know. Besides that, though, I do love the Simrad. And you're gonna be probably the same. You run. Simrad.
Yeah, I ran Lowrance, man. I was like a hardcore Lowrance guy from the start. Like when every unit I bought, I always bought Lowrance, and then we worked up from like the little deals. And I remember when they came out with the combo, and you're like, yeah, man, you get a combo. You know, it's like, you gotta buy two deals. Yeah, and so we worked our way up, in Lowrance and then into Simrad. But the way that I would say it, and I'm not sure who asked the question, but in my opinion, figure out if you want what do you want out of your equipment. Are you looking for a bottom machine, or are you looking for chart plotting, or are you just looking for the whole package? Because when you start looking into and where you're going to be fishing, right? So if you're an offshore guy,
much different.
To be honest with you, this panel of guys right here is really not going to be able to offer you a ton of critical information or technical stuff because of the transducers, the power of the transducers. I mean, I know a little bit about it, but I don't have the experience of this is bad, this is what you need, and so figure out that first. I think for me, like Jason said, I would say as far as chart plotting goes and chart plotting options and cards, I'm going to go with Simrad. I think the resolution on the screen is good. The other thing that I like about Simrad is the TFT, the true TFT screen, which if you don't have a canopy or you don't have a top on your boat, I think the visibility of that screen is a lot better under direct sunlight.
And they have something new I was reading about where when you're wearing polarized glasses in the sun.
Right.
The Simrad, I was reading that yesterday.
And it's a bright screen. Like you can turn it up and it gets really bright. Plus it takes all the other chips, like the Navionics Platinum Plus or the Florida Marine Tracks. So you've got a couple different options on chips. But kind of the same situation. I mean, I fished on James's boat. We ran a tarpon trip, a co-op, and I did. I mean, here's the thing though. Like for me, with as much time as I spend doing that and really like looking at, it's cool, right? It didn't change the way I fish.
Doesn't change.
It didn't change. If I moved or if I saw this, or it gave me a little bit of a better,
data.
A little bit better idea of what's going on below my boat. But I could do that with with my down scan. I may not be able to see them move back and forth, but I can tell you if a tarpon swim under my boat, or I can tell you if I got snapper under my boat.
I kicked
I
kicked my structure sides. I said, and what I actually did is I marked fish on the side sonar, and I stopped and fished, and we caught tarpon.
100%. I did the same thing today.
I use a side scan for sure.
Today, and I hope my guys watching.
We've all got the
They were going to tune
now.
in.
Yeah.
Today we were fishing an area where it's a big, wide open area, right? There's structure in certain areas, and it's flat land in the others. And we weren't getting bites, and I could see fish rolling a little bit here and there. So I said, guys, let's just do a little putter around. I said, I want to see if I can find the fish on the bottom. They kind of shut down. He goes, really? What are you gonna look for him? I go, yeah, I'm gonna look for him on the bottom. He's like being smart about it, right? I'm like, no, I'm gonna go look for him. He's like, for real? And I was like, yeah. So we did a couple passes down, and I got to some numbers that I have that I generally catch tarpon. And we go by this spot, dude, and I go, look, there they are. And he goes, nuh-uh, and I said, there they are, dude. And I should have took a screenshot of it, but there was like 6 tarpon, and they turned up, and I got them on side scan, and you can see the whole thing. I mean, 6 tarpon, you can count them out on the screen. I go, they're laying on the numbers.
Exactly what I did.
We spun around, we put the spot lock down, in 15 minutes we flew 2 fish. Just like that.
It took me 3 hours.
Like,
but I saw.
And so
Eric's right about that. We spend so much time looking at our machines and
100%.
Yeah, I mean
100%. But that's also like how you figure out where you're fishing, man, and what's going on. Because I can tell you if there's snapper coming up, if it's big threadies. There was a post not too long ago that a friend of ours, Ryan Rickard, put, and it was kind of an interesting post. He actually called me and was like, "Hey, man, can you chime in on this? I know you're a Simrad guy." And what it had to do was the difference between the colors on a traditional sonar scan or sonar transducer, and whether or not you could tell if it was thread fins or greenbacks or skill or Spanish sardines or whatever. And I said, well, no, you can't tell if it's red or yellow or blue or green what it is. I said, but you can get an idea. The types of fish, where they're at in the water column, how compact they are. Because I know you're a sonar guy, and you are too, whether you want to believe it or not. I see you watch your sonar a lot more. I'm not. Like, I have totally abandoned all that, and I'm straight structure scan. Like, I don't even look at my sonar.
I use sonar
at all. I really don't. I really don't.
Oh, I'll kick both. I'll run triple screen or dual screen. So you can side sonar. The down imaging, it's just a different read for me, and I'm used to seeing. The other thing with my boat too is different.
Your transducer's a little funky.
Well, I got one in the middle of the boat, so I'm covering. I like the middle at times because it's in the middle and it's in the back, so I'm covering 12 feet essentially with split screen.
Right.
I got
the live scope feature in a nutshell to me. And so if I were to buy a new boat, I'd probably it's hard. I don't know where I'm at. Or if I was going to put a new machine on, because I'm not sponsored by anybody. I was fortunate enough to get a boat with this Garmin in it with the live scope feature. It is expensive. It's very expensive. There's a few cool things about it. I think for the weekend guy, there's a lot of benefit to it, especially if you're somebody who likes to do bottom fishing or reef fishing, or it's not going to do you any good in less than 10 feet of water, I could tell you that. But what's really cool is like seeing how fish are responding on the bottom. Like, I can tell a lot by watching that machine and what they're doing. Tarpon, not so much, but snapper, grouper, I can see the bigger fish under the snapper. Like, there have been several grouper we caught because what I saw on the machine said, wow, look at all those snapper. And then there's grouper sitting right under him, coming up and eating baits. Slide this bait down there, boom. You know, I'm not going to say you wouldn't do that, but it is really cool to see. And I think that people who maybe don't have a ton of experience and they don't have the background to say, oh, we got these fish chummed up when I'll start sliding. You know, all those little things that maybe our hours of experience have taught us to do, they could see things on that machine and say, wow, look at that under there. What's that? The other thing about it is weekend guy blown away by that live. Yeah, Steven's been on a few times. The other cool thing about maybe tarpon fishing is bait placement. Like if you're in a slow tide, because your live scope is forward, it's a forward-facing transducer. So now I've got a transducer that's looking directly below my motor and forward of the boat. And then I have my sonar or structure scan running that's running a little more backward of the boat. So a lot of times,
so you have, is there 3 transducers?
2 transducers.
2 transducers.
One is live scope only. That's the live imaging, and then everything else runs through the typical transducer. What you'll see is you can know, all right, if I'm seeing a lot on my machine or on the live scope screen, I've got fish under and forward of the boat. And if I'm seeing everything on the other side, the traditional sonar and structure scan, everything's behind me,
right,
or below the back end of the boat. So it does help, and there have been some times where you can figure that out. But really, at the end of the day, it's really just cool, and it's something I could live without, but I don't want to. You know what I mean? That's how I put it in a nutshell. So that's it. That's my take on it. And you can do a lot of cool stuff with it. I've never been so frustrated in my life seeing the bait escape from under the net live. Yeah, like watching them swim out.
I don't know if I need that, then I might punch my machine.
You will want to punch your machine. But I've also had it where you really learn about what you don't. It confirms what you think's happening down there, and you're also like, how did that just happen? Like, they will literally, I'll watch the bait, and they
scurry
won't
out of like 6 inches
and beat it by a mile. They are like missing it by the narrowest of margins, swimming out of it. I've even seen them in the net, and as I'm closing it, swim right out. It's pretty intense. I mean, it's pretty nuts to watch.
That's wild.
I've also seen it where you pull up that net, and you're like, game over. Like before the net even closes, it hits the bottom, and the net's just collapsed on them. And
I can do that. I've done that several times with my structure
I've seen
scan.
your images of it.
I got a place where and I always try to hit it, man,
because you want to get that.
I throw on my transducer, and I think that's why I get so many of those. Is because I really use my transducer to catch bait.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's on that side of my boat. It's in the rear, and so when I'm marking bait and I'm watching my machine, I'm automatically referring to what's on that machine to right there, in the back of my boat. And so when I always throw towards the back side of the boat if I'm back there, and you get them. But no, it's. I tell you what, man. Technology today, whatever manufacturer you go with,
they're all great.
It is
it's a copycat deal. They all end up
complete upgrade from anything we had even 5 years ago.
Oh, God,
just every brand across the board, whether it's Raymarine, Simrad, Lowrance, Garmin, Humminbird.
Lowrance was pretty early with the HDS models. They hit
side
when
scan
that thing
and
first came out.
That was
hit
nuts.
a home run with that one, and then of course everybody hits it right on. But the funny thing though with Simrad is a lot of people don't use them. They think they're yachting, but I think the new Simrad's nicer. But the old
I think
ones,
they're the best looking unit out there.
Yeah, like it looks like a TV screen in the boat. It's just clean. There's not a lot going on, and it's real.
I will say one thing. And only because I was an automation engineer for 10 years. I'm going to say 2 things. If you're going to buy a screen that only has touch, there's no physical buttons on it, be careful.
Yep.
If you're an offshore guy.
Mine only has touch.
If you're an offshore guy
it's tough.
and you're going to depend on a GPS to get you in and out, don't buy a Go Series Simrad or something like that, or don't make it your primary unit.
Well, you can
buy something else. Because what happens is when that screen goes out or when something happens, there's been an issue with Simrad with the system going into standby mode. Mm-hmm. But when the screen, you guys all know about this because you've seen me on the water going, I don't know where the bait's at because I can't get my machine to turn on because there's no physical buttons on the machine to change the settings if it shuts down in a weird way.
Right.
So if the HDS or the Go Series,
that's right.
if it shuts down in standby mode and it powers up, it's in standby mode, which means all the buttons are freeze. You can't even get it out of standby.
Yep. The other thing about that is when it's all touchscreen is when you're running, trying to operate it.
Right, but the other thing is and I hope there's some creek in the world where some Simrad programmer or Navico guy watches this. If you have a screen that doesn't have any buttons, actually, if you have a touch screen that you're going to be touching all the time, make a screen where you can clean the damn thing without changing 10,000 things by wiping the rag over it.
Right.
All these touch screens now, and I say that because I used to program touch screens, and on all the lift stations and all the systems that we did, there was a screen where you could go clean screen, and you hit that button, it would go black for like 15 seconds, and you could wipe it down, and it would come back to where it was.
It's a great idea.
If you hit the power button once, it says screen lock. I do it when I clean mine.
Oh, well, I didn't even know that.
Just touch. Well, yours is on the Evo. I got the power
I only got buttons though. There's no physical buttons
but
though.
You still should have a power. I don't know on the Go, but on the Evo, you hit the power button. It says touch lock, and
but you can still touch the power button, right?
Yeah. So you might not be on
because
the Go.
See, here's what happens, and I'll turn it off and wipe it. But as soon as you wipe over the power button, which is in the lower left-hand corner, the screen turns on. Yeah. Well, if you hit the power button twice while it's turning on, it goes into standby mode.
Is that why yours is messing up?
That's why. So when you go to clean the screen, you hit the power button twice, the dang thing goes into standby mode, and it's like a funky loop to get it out of it. So,
the Evo,
I'm not saying don't buy one. I'm just saying be careful and be careful if you're an offshore guy.
If you're worried about that, just buy the Evo. NSS Evo 3. It has buttons, and it does have touch.
And it has a dial for Zoom, which is nice.
Yeah.
They make an adapter for the Go. They make an adapter for the Go. It's like a little module that you can buy that has the buttons and the scrolls, Zoom and all that in it, and you can put on it. Yeah, that was the one that got me, is cleaning the screen and stuff. And maybe you're right. I never used the lock function, so maybe that's what it's for. Maybe I'm just out of the.
Yeah, you would hold your power button.
Yeah.
Just touch it, and you'll have a menu.
Yeah, the menu pops up.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that was on there. But
I actually ran across that. I was looking for troubleshooting on my unit, and go on YouTube, you'll find everything but what you need, and I found out that menu is actually pretty easy to work off.
Oh, yeah.
It pops up.
There's like 8 buttons or whatever on it when it pops up.
But you can actually screen lock.
But be careful with that, because if you have a Go and you clean it and you rub and you wipe your rag and you hit that power button and then you hit it again while it's powering up, it puts it into standby mode. It's funky. And what I figured out is if you do it 3 times, sometimes it'll come out of standby when it's powering up.
Nice.
I've had trips where I don't have a machine, because I can't get the machine to come out of standby mode. So, food for thought.
Steven, answer your question. That live scan, which is I believe it's available now in a limited capacity on the new live machines that they just launched. But go check out the video that you'll find on YouTube. If you do live scan versus live scope, I think you can't even consider them the same thing anymore. They're not. I thought they would be. It's 2 different applications.
Saying the Garmin's better?
Unequivocally from what I saw. And I've got no dog in the fight, believe me.
No, that's what I'm asking.
The live scan I was like, what? This?
Yeah. Interesting.
It just done. I mean, it's not even legible. It's just nothing. It's really crazy to watch. But what it does is it's a much broader view, because it's that forward facing. Like they've done that same thing. So it's a broad view. Only if you were going to look for structure in front of the boat. I see it's how applicable it could be in bass fishing, like when you're in shallow water or dark water trying to figure out what's in front of the boat.
Or running in Crystal River.
But it's not a fish locating feature. But anyways, and Henry.
There's a rock. I'm about to hit it.
Henry, I'll see you, man. I think that's July 10th. I'll be out there at the Brandon O'Brien's talking some fishing. So I'll see you then. I'm looking forward to it, Henry.
Yeah, I do want to go on a limb here and do it on the air. I want to thank all you guys for your help and covering me in the month I've been gone. I had daughters playing volleyball pretty heavily, and
getting after
you
it.
guys have been overly supportive of helping me out when needed, and I do thank you guys.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
And I can say the same thing because I've been missing quite a bit.
Georgia.
Two old guys. Hey, the
I
two
won't
old
be
guys
here
are
next
slipping
week.
here, I guess, right?
But I'll be here the next 4.
There we go. That's all it takes. Only takes 2 of us. Just takes 2. As long as we got 2,
No
we're
matter
good.
which
That's a
2.
song.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good song.
Sounds like we need to go get something to eat.
Let's go.
I'm
Let's do it.
starving.
Let's do it.
Got to fish tomorrow. Fellas, ladies, gentlemen, thanks for watching.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next week. Same time, same place, 7 o'clock.